want them to unveil it, and then they can say a few words about how fantastic it is. So just pull the
Don't pull it
off.
You're not going to help us?
Well, just pull gently and it'll.
Yeah, don't pull it forward.
It's just kind of balanced there right now.
It probably elevates with aliens.
Oh, wow.
Whoa!
It's a little wild. So this is made from a piece of old growth cedar that I was able to salvage from the Olympic Peninsula. It was probably cut from a big bump on a tree out there in the 1960s or 70s. So on the back, I left several tool marks on there that showed the original cutting of that, and smoothed it up and everything, but you can see some of the history on the back. And then this side represents some of the history from 1942 on, where you had the first flying saucer sighting in North America, right off Maury Island. So down here, you know how everyone says aliens are so strange and they're just weird, but you see what other creatures greeted them on Earth here, that they're a little strange too. So, and then there's an ancient legend from the Ukraine and also from the Haida natives about how Raven discovered mankind on Earth. And Raven was trotting along the beach and heard a noise in a seashell, and then the seashell had humans in there, and they'd never been to Earth before. So Raven was a trickster. It made them feel comfortable and got the humans to come out, and that's how humans arrived on Earth. And so we have Raven Discovers the Spaceship, but it's also standing on a clamshell of little people down there too. And then the Men in Black came along in 1942 from the government, and they took away all the evidence, and then the plane crashed on the way home. So I'm not sure whatever happened with that, but there's a little evidence with the crabs up here where they just have their glasses up in there. And thanks to and then there's a few things too. Speaking of science fiction, H.G. Wells, when he wrote War of the Worlds, the Martians looked like octopus, and so we may be Martians. When years ago, Earth wasn't inhabitable yet, and Mars was already cooled off. So when meteorites hit Mars, they transported life forms here. So maybe we're all Martians. I don't know. And then see what else. Oh yeah, then there was a science fiction sculptor named Ray Harryhausen who did the what was it called? Fantasy Mysterious Island, and there were giant crabs in that movie, and he also did King Kong and some other famous films with stop action claymation. So it's a little tribute to a lot of little sci-fi things that are been going on. And then my pigments that I use, after I did the carving and sanding, then I varnished it, and it has a beautiful chocolate color. The wood does, which I left on the back. And because this goes out there where people are flying by on the road, I needed something that had to be a little bright. It had to be a little too flashy almost. And so some of these pigments change color as the sun goes by. The pigments reflect the light differently. There's little bits of mica in there, which is the same mineral that's in granite, and that's that little sparkly mirror type thing. It's been there for 1 billion years, sparkling. And they use them in cars, like metal flake cars. You see them go by and they look like they're red, then they're blue, and so that sort of effect sort of happens as people drive by, walk by, or the sun goes over. So there'll be a little bit of change in light. And anyway, we're going to install it today on that rack, and it'll be up above parking, cars parked and driving by. It'll be up here, so you'll be able to see it quite easily. And anyway, it's a really good old tough piece of wood, and it should last quite a long time, and I hope everyone enjoys it over the years.
How long did this take you to make?
Oh, I started this actually about 4 months ago, I guess it was, and thanks to Fred Andrews, I told him I like to tell stories with my work, and so he said, well, we have a lot of there's a lot of marine life around, and then there's the Maury Island incident, and I had never actually heard of it. So when he told me about the Maury Island incident, I thought, oh, that's great. I'll have the aliens arriving and interacting with all the other Earthlings that they're surrounded by. It's kind of like Welcome to Earth. Everyone thinks that these aliens look so strange, but if you look around at the life on our planet, it's pretty strange too. And,
So did you carve all this? Is it all carved, or how is this made?
yeah, this is one giant single piece of cedar, and it's about 4 inches thick. So this was a giant bump on a log out on the Olympic Peninsula at one time, and then it was cut probably 50 years ago off the log that they were harvesting or whatever. And so I was able to get I have several beautiful pieces of wood like this that are salvaged from the old logging days, and so they make great, it's about a 500 or more year old piece of wood, and so and on the back I left some tool marks where they originally cut it off of the big log, and so anyway, that's how I get all my people. People call me up after a big storm and they say, "Oh, that storm last night. There's a big tree in my driveway. Can you come and get it?" So I get a lot of wood that way.
And so what kind of tools did you use?
Well, I use hand tools, but I also start out with power tools. So I used a little chainsaw. I use these sanders and grinders. They're like big Dremel tools with the different attachments, and they work quite well on all this. I just keep sort of going over it and over it until it's finally finished, and then I varnished it after I did the sanding, and then added these powdered pigments to it, which will give it an enhanced color when you walk by it or the sun goes by. It'll change as you walk by it, or the sunlight heads towards the sunset. It'll be different intensities, and then I tried to get as much depth in the sculpture, the artwork as possible, so that it would be the light would light it dramatically. And then basically I just wanted to have a lot of fun with it, and so there's a few different stories in there. The Men in Black, the H.G. Wells, when he wrote War of the Worlds, the aliens were looking like octopus, and then there's the ancient legends of how humans came to Earth, and then just the creatures that are around here. So